I'm Mayor Ted Betancourt. Thank you all for being here for this presentation. Certainly this is not ideal. This is not something that we really wanted to bring forward to disrupt your lives, to disrupt your children's lives, your students' lives, certainly during this particular time. But it's a situation where we think it's the right thing to do for the long-term health of the Center School and the long-term health of the Center School community. I'm going to speak for a little bit, talk about the building, talk about the plans, and I'm going to turn over to Dr. Vidala. He has a slideshow for you to kind of get into the details and the specifics about the plan. But again, I appreciate all of you being here to talk this through, and certainly we want any questions, any input to come at us. We're getting close to a finalized plan, but there's still some more work we're doing, and certainly any input would always be very valuable from all of you. So we built this brand new, beautiful middle school a few years ago. Now we're just about complete the Welch School. It's a major renovation there. And then we're looking at the next major project. The Mass School Building Authority, we have to apply for funding for all school projects, whether it be a new school, a major renovation, or a separate program would be things like windows, roofs, boilers, things of that nature. But the Mass School Building Authority only does one project at a time, one major project. So the middle school was first, I'm talking about in terms of when I've been mayor, and then the second was the Welch School. Now we're going all forward towards the new high school. We have applied for the last 4 years. We did not get admission into the program. And the reason why that's so important is they pay about 60% of the cost for the school. So certainly when we built this school, it was about $90 million. The state paid about nearly 60%, about over 50 million of that. So certainly that allows cities and towns to make this investment. It'd be hard to do otherwise. So we're looking at the high school, which is obviously going to be a major project, major investment in our community, and we certainly need MSBA's involvement to make that happen. We did this year, which is great news for the future. It doesn't mean we're definitely in, but it's a very good sign. The state notified us that they're coming in for a senior staff meeting to meet with me, Dr. Vidala, our facilities director, some key people at the high school, to review our school, review our ideas, and then they'd be making a decision in November. Still probably about 5, 6, 7 years off before we'd be able to open the doors to a new Peabody High School, but that's very much in the works and something that would benefit certainly the whole community and would be a flagship for the whole community, not just for our students. But what that does, though, is kind of push the Center School back, which to me is the school that needs the most work besides the high school. The two of them are in major need of work. But I have to prioritize, and I need to be open with everybody. As I mentioned at the last community meeting, the high school is my priority. I think that's what we need to attack first. So that pushes the Center School back 7, 8, 9 years in terms of getting a major renovation. The way the building is now, I don't think it could last that long. It's continuing to deteriorate. Thankfully, we have excellent teachers and staff and people who care about the Center School that have been able to keep the school going. But we're pouring in money every year to keep it going, putting Band-Aids on every year, and that's just not sustainable and not the right way to do things. So we made a decision as a community, our school committee, our school administration, city council, all of us made the decision to try to help the Center School and really do something that could help that building, make it a much cleaner, brighter, better looking building for our students, for our families, and for the teachers and staff. This summer, we were able to do a couple of big items that went terrific. They cost about $500,000, and I want to thank the City Council's unanimous vote. I know we have some City Councilors here, Councilors Rosignol, Councilor Turco, Councilor Daigle, who's the Ward 4 Councilor, who's been a part of this as well. And I wanted to thank our school committee, Joe Amico, Jared Hockman, and Beverly Gay and Griffin Dunn. Ann Manning from the City Council has been a big supporter of the Center School. And I think we got all the elected officials who are here. I'm sorry if I missed somebody. But the great part is that it's been unanimous every step of the way. It was about a $500,000 project. We put all new floor tiling in the school to give it a better look. And then we did a complete asbestos abatement to make sure that the school is clean and make sure everything is proper. We did testing. We'll continue to do testing on that. But those were two big projects we wanted to do this year. The bulk of the work, though, is going to be significant. It's going to be a new heating system. It's going to be roof repairs, putting on a new ceiling, significant bathroom upgrades, and some electrical upgrades. I'd love to be able to say that we could do that over Christmas holiday, during April and February vacations and over the summer, but that work can't be done that way. We need to shut the school down for 1 year to make sure that this is done properly and that we can get the school ready for for our teachers, staff, and for students for the long term until we can get to that next stage with the MSBA, which again I figure is 7-8 years out if all things go well. So that's what we're planning to do. There's a lot of work to that, and again, I apologize. The last thing I want to be doing is bringing this forward and telling a community that we're disrupting everybody's lives and making our students' lives a little different, a little difficult. I have 4 children right now at the Peabody Public Schools. One just graduated. I got a little guy we just brought into kindergarten. I know it's very difficult, and again, not something that none of us really wanted to do and bring this forward. But I think this is the only way for us to do it. We can't continue to put Band-Aids on that building, and we need to make sure that we're investing the money properly. It's going to be significant. It will be in the millions, certainly. We'll be going to the City Council once we have all the estimates and all the reports in, which they're coming in. They've been coming in, and we don't have it complete yet, but we'll be going to the City Council for that vote, hopefully to get that, again, unanimous support. And then that next following school year would be, we'd be closing. We do have a Center School Building Committee. We had a meeting a couple of weeks ago to kind of discuss some ideas, look at a couple of different options. I'm very appreciative of that. A number of the representatives are here. We have a couple of teachers from the Center School, Mrs. Sakalakis and Mrs. White. Certainly, Ms. Almeida, the principal, and Nino, the vice principal, have been a part of that. And we have 2 parents that have been a part of it as well. Sue Petrodelis and Diana Ricardo have been helping out also. But I know it's very disruptive. Want to try as best we can. I've met with a number of parents. I know a number of parents have met with Dr. Vidala. We're always open for meetings to meet with all of you individually in small groups, whatever makes sense for all of you individually. We're ready to do that at any time. So I'm going to be here, certainly answer any questions at the end. But in terms of the specifics, the details, the things that Dr. Vidala is planning for the building and for placements, I can turn it over to you. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Mayor Betancourt. So thank you all for being here. We know this is very emotional, and it's not an ideal situation. Mayor Betancourt did a really good job of sort of giving us the overview of, sort of where we were, the rationale for the closure. So this is just kind of a quick agenda that we'll go through. A lot of this in the beginning, Mayor Betancourt touched on, and then I'll kind of get through the options and what this means for your children. So we talked a little bit about the MSBA and the timeline for Peabody Veterans Memorial High School, and then what that means for the Center School. So the scope and timeline really require us to relocate the students next year. And so this is some of the work that was done. You can see the floors are much brighter. The asbestos abatement went really well. We did air quality testing. Those reports are up on our website. That will all be, I'll show you where that is in a link at the end of the slideshow. But this went really well, and it went very smoothly over the summer, and we were really happy with the work that was done. And then, of course, these big upgrades, the heating system and things like that, are going to take quite some time. And in order to do that, we do need to vacate the school and relocate our students. So just to kind of think about the current demographics, during last year's school year, we had 446 students. And I would say the building is probably built for 350-ish, and so we were really outgrowing it, and that is really part of what happened with the systems failing. So we offered last year at the community meeting, any family that wanted to relocate through the open enrollment process was allowed to do so. We met with a number of families, and approximately 50 students, I think it was 48 students last year, opted to use the open enrollment process to attend a different school. And then over the summer, as the kindergarten students began to enroll, we saw about 25 to 30 kindergartners also choose open enrollment. So this year's kindergarten class at the center is a little bit smaller. So all in all, our current enrollment is 349 students this year. Of those students, the 5th graders will move on to the Higgins Middle School next year, and we have 275 students in K-4 that will need to be relocated next year. And so we have, is that 155 bus students? So we have 155 bus students. There's 4 buses that take students to the center school right now. And so we'll talk about how that impacts them for next year. We'll still be able to provide those 4 buses and provide transportation. Okay, so we have 5 options that we're going to talk about that we went through before we got to our preferred option. So some of what we were talking about last year at the community meeting was we have an integrated preschool at the McCarthy Elementary School, and our initial thought was to relocate the entire 8 classrooms and move them to a spot in Centennial Park and be able to free up those spots for students from the center school to go to the McCarthy. We were looking to partner with Pathways, which is a Head Start program, and they were really excited about it. Mayor Betancourt and I toured 4 or 5 different properties. We met with some property owners. They were warehouse-type spaces or office spaces that needed to be retrofitted. We needed to provide bathrooms and sinks and things like that for our classrooms. And all in all, the landlords were very excited about it, and we thought up until about August that this was a possibility, but they really wanted us to do the build-out, which would be in the multi-million-dollar range, and they wanted a 15-year lease. And so for us, Pathways was very excited. They said, yes, we want a footprint in Peabody for 15 years. But for us, it didn't make a lot of sense. And similar to what happened at the Welch School when they were talking about modular classrooms, we decided that it's better to invest the money in our building and get a better building than to invest money in a property that somebody else owns or something that we're not going to sustain. So unfortunately, although we thought this was a great option, it was not a viable option, and so we needed to sort of rethink what was happening. So we looked at all of the schools across the district, we looked at their class size, and we said, do we have an opportunity to move all the center school students into the other 7 elementary schools without going over the maximum number of students? And the answer is yes. Mathematically, we could do that. We could relocate all the students across the 7 elementary schools and squeeze them into the current buildings and do it for a year. But again, logistically, it doesn't make sense. It spreads the center school kids out too much, and it would be a very difficult thing to do for transportation, and it's really not the best fit. It doesn't really align with everything that we wanted to do. We want to try to keep as many of the center school students together as possible. So although this would work, it's really not the best option for us. So the next thing that we looked at was, what if we utilize the annex? Because of the work that we did this summer, we were able to complete the asbestos abatement and do all the tiles in the main building. And we thought, well, now the annex might be a possibility, because the work in the annex really is more cosmetic, because the annex is a newer building than the main building, which was built in the 60s. And so the systems that are failing, a lot of the bathrooms and things in the main building need to be fixed, but the annex, the bathrooms are in good shape, and the tiling is in good shape, and the walls are in good shape. So it's more cosmetic. So we did figure that we could use the annex, and so what would that look like? There's 10 classroom spaces, and there's a separate entrance to the main building. So if we utilize the annex, what does that mean? So the first thing that we thought of was to relocate grades 4 and 5 from the main building to the annex for 1 year, because there's been a big desire to keep the upper-aged kids at the center school. Unfortunately, if we do that, we don't have access to the kitchen or the main office or the nurse or the gym, and it really would not be a reasonable option for our 5th grade students. The classrooms are really built for the younger kids. It's where our kindergarten and 1st graders are currently, and they wouldn't have their specials, they wouldn't have use of the gym, and they wouldn't have a cafeteria. So as much as we'd like to keep the 4th and 5th grade students in the building, we really don't think that this is an option, and we're not able to use it. So we did consider this, and we wanted to put it on there. The other piece is, if we kept some students here and we relocated the rest of the students, we'd be splitting up siblings, and it would be a challenge. So the other option that we thought of was similar. Let's keep the K and 1 students in the annex and relocate grades 2 through 5. Again, we would, in order to do this plan, we would be having siblings split up. We still wouldn't have use of the cafeteria or the kitchen. The main office and the nurse's suite would be off limits. We'd be transporting again. So this really wasn't a viable option. The other thing we thought of, the current kindergarten students have only been there for 1 year. They'll move up to 1st grade. The incoming K students have never attended the center school. So they don't have the same attachment to the center school. And if we're separating them from their siblings, it really isn't the best option. So ultimately, they wouldn't have their specialist teachers. They wouldn't be able to have use of the cafeteria or the gym. So this wasn't an option, which led us to our final preferred option. So this is the option that we've landed on. We've talked to the teachers at the center school. We've talked to the teachers in the integrated preschool. So it's kind of circling back to our original plan of relocating the integrated preschool. The integrated preschool currently has 8 classrooms. If we relocate them from the McCarthy School to the annex of the center school, a lot of our pre-K students either go AM or PM, so many of them don't eat lunch, so they don't need a cafeteria. And the little ones that do stay for a full day, they eat in the classroom. So they don't need access to the cafeteria or the kitchen. We can deliver lunches similar to we do in some of our other sites. such as the PLA at the mall. We deliver their food. So we could do that for our pre-K students. The other thing that's nice about this is it gives us a central location for the preschool, and it frees up classroom space at the McCarthy School for the majority of the center school's kids. So we would be able to send 150 kids from the center school to the McCarthy. We would be able to open up a new classroom in each grade, so 6 new classrooms, 1 in each grade, and then we'd have the other additional 2 classroom spaces because the integrated preschool has 8 rooms. The other 2 classroom spaces would be able to use for special education services or related service providers, ELL services, and things like that. So we have that space in the McCarthy School. So this is the preferred option. This way we can keep our siblings together, we can keep our neighborhoods together, and we'll be able to provide transportation similar to it is now. So, for example, we have a number of students who, they leave the house in the morning, they go to the bus stop, which is right near their house, and it takes them to school and brings them back. We've worked out that the majority of those students will be able to go to the same bus stop, get on the same bus. It's just going to take them to a different school, right? So some of them will be able to go to the McCarthy School. We'll be able to fit about 150 students at McCarthy, and the rest of the students will be able to fit at the Carroll School or the Welch or South School. So we have, for our process, what we're planning on doing and how we're going to relocate our students is basically we're looking at our priorities to keep our siblings together. So we wanted to make sure all the families got to stay together. And then the next priority was to keep the neighborhoods together because of transportation, really making sure that we keep as many kids together as possible. And then we wanted to make sure we provide transportation to students to their new school. And so we're going to go through a process where we will be assigning everyone a new neighborhood school for next year. And that way, everyone will have an assigned school where we will be able to provide transportation. And if that is not your desired location, we will work with families to have the option to do open enrollment, similar to what we did last year. But where we're looking at 275 students this year, we will be first assigning a new school, and that's your assigned school that we can provide transportation to, and then we'll go through the same process. So first we'll notify you of this is your proposed new school for next year. It's not binding, but this is where it is, and this is where we can provide you with transportation. And then we'll provide everyone with an option that wants to explore open enrollment, and we'll sit down and we'll meet with people similar to what we did last year, and we'll work with you on open enrollment if there's an opportunity for you to go to a school that is closer to your work or works out better for you. For example, last year we had a number of families that worked together, and they said the 6 of us want to send our children to this school, and we worked together and made sure that we were able to make that happen. So, as I said, all students will be assigned a new school. Transportation will be provided to that school that we assign you. Center school students will be given priority for open enrollment. So we'll do the same process that we did last year. We'll do it a little bit earlier. And what we'll do is after you have your assigned school, we'll send out a survey where you can choose a school, and we'll meet with you and we'll work with you. If you do choose a school through open enrollment, we do ask that you provide transportation for your child to that new school. So we will tell you what school we can transport you to. If transportation is something that you need, we'll be able to provide that. But if you want to choose a different school, we can work on that. And we are really encouraging individual meetings. Obviously, this is a meeting to talk about sort of the big plan and how we're going to roll this out. But if you have individual questions, we can certainly answer them tonight. But we want to really make sure that we are understanding what your unique situation is. Last year we had some very successful meetings. We talked to families and we were able to meet their needs. And we'd like to do that again this year. If you have specific questions about, your unique situation, you have next year a first grader, a third grader, and a fifth grader, and how is that going to work? And you've assigned me this school, but I want to attend a different school, we'll be able to make that happen. And we'll work with you to make sure that the class size is appropriate and that you're able to get to the school that you desire. So we're working with some software that we got, and I just wanted to kind of show you a couple different things. So the software that we have uses Google Images and Google Earth. So each of these little dots are where someone lives. And so it has the grade number on it, and so we can click on that and we can see where everyone lives. But also it has the boundaries. So if you look in the top left corner, that yellow is the Burke. Below that is the West School. The orange is the McCarthy boundaries. The red at the top here is the center school. So we filtered out only students who are attending the center school in K through 4. So these are students that would need to be relocated. To the top right is the Carroll School. Right below that is the Welch School. Down here where it says South Peabody, that's the South District. And then here down near Bartholomew Street is the Brown. So we're able to utilize the software and we can move the boundary lines and whatnot. And so when we zoom in, we can really see where everyone lives, where the neighborhoods are. And what we've done is we're starting to group the neighborhoods and identify where the bus routes are. So at the very top of our screen, right near the Carroll School neighborhood, that's a neighborhood that can be relocated to the Carroll School. We can provide transportation to that. And then over here on the top left, these are neighborhoods where they're all bus students, and those students currently take a bus and it comes down to the center school. If it just turns right onto Lowell Street, that same bus can take them to the McCarthy School. So we're working with this software to identify geographically where the students are, how we can provide transportation to them, and that's how we're going to do the assigned schools. Now, if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. But this is how we're just going to start with this process so that we have a clean way of grouping kids together and assigning those schools. We'll give you plenty of time to digest what that means, to talk to other families that you're close with, that you may need help with rides or transportation, and we'll be able to work with that. Because we know that sometimes it's not necessarily if you live in the same neighborhood, but if you do the same after-school activity. So kids that play soccer together or kids that go to dance together might live on separate parts of this map, but might be going to the same location. So those might be the families that you would like to go to the same school with, and we can accommodate that. And so we'll just do that through individual meetings. So next step, I want to thank the committee that we had. We had an initial meeting last week with the building committee. We're going to set up subcommittees that we can really work with people on. But I just wanted to thank them for the work that they've done and the input. Of course, the teachers and the administration have been phenomenal. We're really going to look at building 4 different subcommittees. So if you're interested in the construction or renovation and the details of that, there's going to be a group that meets to talk about that. If you're interested in the student placement, we're going to have opportunities to get together and to have some focus groups and to have some meetings with that subcommittee. If you're interested in transportation, if that's something that you want to talk about, we're going to have a couple opportunities to have meetings on that, and we'll talk about the logistics and how that's working. And then we do have one for our staff. We're going to have a separate one with Eric Blake is here as the president of the union, and we've been working with him and the staff on what that looks like for staff placement for next year, and then how it looks when we return to school the following year. And then everything that we do, this presentation and all of the information we have is on the Center School website. So if you go to the Center School website, the far right tab called Building Updates, this has all the letters that we've sent out, it has all of the testing that we've done. So anything that we've done, the air testing, the air quality reports with the different dates and timelines, this is sort of the landing page that we have for access for all of that information. So if anybody wants some access to that information, you have it there. And finally, I just kind of want to leave everybody with this. Our goal is to support a smooth and successful transition for all of our students. So you may recognize some of these smiling faces. These are current 4th graders. There's 5 of them there, and 1 South School student. So all of these kids are at the South School this year. They decided to transition together. They are smiling on the first day of school with their balloons, and they were welcome to their new school. This is what we want for all your children. We want to see them happy next year. We want to see them have a nice, smooth transition, and and to really be with their friends. And I think really that's the key. So full disclosure. Second from the right is my daughter. She's a South School student. These are 5 of her friends that came over from the Center School, and it really made her year. And it's nice that they're together. And so as a parent of a 4th grader myself, I know how important it is for the kids to have their friends at their school, and that's why we want to accommodate that to the best of our ability. So if there's something that you want to do, and you want to work with a group of people, we want to make sure that we can make that happen for you. So if we have any questions, I know we gave a lot of information. So Mayor Betancourt is here, and I'm here to answer any questions that people have. We also have Dr. Higgins has been doing a lot of work on the transportation, so he certainly can answer any questions. And of course, Nino and Sarah are here as well. Yes. Yep. Yeah, so our goal is to get everything between Thanksgiving and the December break to you, so you have some time to digest it, and then you can take a look at it, and then open up that survey. So last year we did it around March. We'd like to do it in January this year. So give you a couple weeks to talk to each other, to figure out where you land, and again, it's not binding, but we want to give you that information as soon as possible. So once we have all that, we'll give you your proposed assigned school for next year, where you'll get the transportation, and then give you the timeline in that letter. And we'll give everybody written letters on that. And then there is a feature in Aspen where we can assign the next school, so we could have it there too, so that there's multiple places for people to see. And that way we'll have a running list, and then we'll set up meetings and things like that. But well, it's going to take us 6 or 8 weeks to make sure that we button down all the transportation, things like that. We want to make sure that we do it once and we do it right. So we're hoping that in that time between the Thanksgiving break and the December break, that we'll have that information for you. Yes. Yep. So all of the services that are provided at the center school can be provided in any of our other elementary schools. There are no special programs at the center, so it's not like a substantially separate classroom. All of our IEPs are written so that the services are by the service provider. There's no teachers' names in it. We do anticipate that a large number of kids will go to the McCarthy School, and some of our staff will go to the McCarthy School. So there will be those options, but none of the IEPs have names in them, just because if people leave their job or things like that, it's just a best practice just to put the title if they get speech or if they get a special education teacher. And we'll be able to provide those at any school. So again, if you were assigned, say you were assigned the Carroll School, but you want to go to the Burke School, we can work with you to make that happen. And we can provide those supports at each of those schools as well. So with the teachers, we talked to them yesterday about, we want to make sure that they have as many options as possible, and that they're, as a professional, they get to drive that decision. So for them, their timeline is going to be probably the first week of March, because by then we'll know how many retirements we have and how many open positions. So I can't guarantee you that you'll have the same service provider, but we can work together to try to do that. Yes. Yes. Yep. So we'll have the assigned school, which just to have a starting place. And if there's any siblings, that will make sense. But if you want to open enroll your third grader to a different school and bring a kindergartner, you can do that. Or if you're a new family and you have a kindergartner, we are prioritizing that as well. Sure. Yes, thank you. That's a great question. So you do not. So once you are part of the new school, if you do not want to make another transition, you are going to be allowed to remain there. So that is, once you're open enrolled and you have a seat in a building, we allow you to stay there as long as there's a seat available. So knowing that a transition is very challenging for a family and for a student, if you want to stay, you have the right to stay. If you want to come back, you have the right to come back. So when we do come back, we are anticipating that we will do a little bit of redistricting, and so your assigned school may be your future school. So we want to make sure that when we come back, that we have a limited footprint in the center school, so it'll probably reduce the enrollment a little bit. As I said, it bubbled up to 440, so we're looking to reduce the enrollment a little bit, have a smaller footprint. We'll do that through Mr. Hockman's redistricting committee. However, if you are at a new neighborhood school and you previously attended the center and you want to come back, we will make sure that happens. So we'll work with families that want to come back. So it works both ways. Yes. Yeah. So at this time, I think it's going to depend. If you open enrolled to a place where you provided transportation, you'll likely have to provide transportation. If we're providing you with transportation, it may be that your new neighborhood school gets transportation to that new school. So I think I can't guarantee the transportation, but it's likely that we'll be able to work with you. Yes. Yeah, so in general, once you take a seat, that seat's yours. And we do require the application every year, but we generally approve it every single year. So we haven't, and I know Dr. Higgins has worked with me over the past 2 years with this. Since I've been here, once the kids have been, after COVID has passed, since the kids have been in that seat, it's their seat, and we keep them there. I think the only thing that, is if there was like a huge move in and we had some overcrowding at a school, we'd have to work on that, but we don't anticipate that. So if you're going to move and you want to stay, we'll work with you to make that happen. As I said, we want to make sure that the transition is as smooth as possible, and we don't want, to have to force kids to this yo-yo effect. Yes. Yes, and that's why Mayor Betancourt had approved the work to be done over the summer, because that was a huge piece of the work, and they were able to do that. So we anticipate that they're going to begin work on the heating system. The reason we gave everybody 18 months lead time was because that's how long it took to get the materials for the heating system as well. So we wanted to make sure the building stayed online. All of that has been ordered. We're ready for that to come in. They anticipate they'll be able to start work as soon as the kids are out in June, be able to do quite a bit of summer work and have the heating ready for the annex by October. And then they'll be able to open up the walls and do the electrical and the plumbing throughout the winter when everything is empty in the main building. So we do anticipate that the timeline will take us, and we've given ourselves a little bit of a buffer, but we'll be able to use the summer, the full year, and then the following summer. So we do think that we'll be able to get everything done. Yes. Yeah, use your big voice. So for an incoming student, yep. So kindergarten enrollment is typically around March 1st. You'll enroll, and they'll tell you, based on your street address, this is where your assigned school is. And if you have a sibling, you just notify us at that time. I have a sibling who, has been assigned to this school as well, so you would know. Or I've been assigned to this school, but I've open enrolled, and I have a sibling, and we'll make sure that happens. So our goal is to keep all the siblings together. Yeah, I think usually March 1st is when we start opening up kindergarten registration. Yes. Yes, Mary Martin. Yes, thank you. And that's an excellent point. I appreciate that. So that's one of the reasons why we're using the software. So these students here at the bottom near Metro Bowl, we wouldn't want to bus them to the Burke School, right? So if they're over here near Metro Bowl, they're very close to the Welch School. And the Welch is a brand new school, and we have some room there. So, we want to be able to really take this and do a thoughtful job of this. So that's one of the reasons why we have this software. We don't want to send kids on a bus for an hour. Now, if families want to opt in, they have control over that time. The kids aren't sitting through a bus with multiple stops. So I think that's an excellent point, and that's one of the reasons why we're utilizing geography to make sure the kids are going to the closest school possible. Yes. Yes, thank you. Yeah, so we've, and you'll see that there's concentrations of kids in neighborhoods, and the bus can go there and it has a stop. So we've kind of started to map out where our current bus stops are and be able to say, it takes you this long to get to the center school. How long would it take you to get to McCarthy or Carroll? And we're really trying to spread out that way based on this geography. Yep, thank you. Yes, so we actually, thank you, Mr. Hockman. We purchased the software as part of the redistricting committee to see where everyone is, and then as a bonus, we've been able to utilize it for this particular case as well. Yeah. So in the current proposal, so this is sort of the concentration in the middle here. Where this number 3 is very close actually to the McCarthy School. So we'll have 150 seats at the McCarthy School. So a large number of these students will be able to go right down by Brooksby Farm and then take a left on, I believe it's Johnson to Pine, right? So it gets there. So there is an ability to bus a lot of kids to where that number 3 is, which would be the McCarthy School. But then you notice that there's some kids who already live in the Welch district. We'll also be able to take a few of those students and they'll be able to attend the Welch School. And then there's another group of students that will be able to attend where it says Andover Street and Pulaski Street. That's where the Carroll School is. So just depending on geography, the assigned schools will be to a school that we can bus you to that's closest to your home. And then people can choose if they want to opt out of that. Yes. Yes, we could do that in individual meetings. So that's what we did last year with families. They came in and we had sent out the survey and we said, give us a couple schools, 2-3 schools. So for example, there was a family, depending on the grade, there was a family that wanted to, they were driving to work over near the West Peabody area. And so they said, I'd like to go to either the West or the Burke, but I'm not sure. And so one family, grade 1 happened to be a big grade at the Burke, so they chose the West. Another family was in grade 3 and they chose the Burke. So we had those conversations and said, based on enrollment, what makes sense and how can we handle that. The other thing that we can do this year that we didn't do last year is we can open up new classrooms, right? So we have the ability to open up additional classroom spaces so that we can fit more people. And so that is part of what we're doing, opening the 6 classrooms at the McCarthy. We're opening 3 new classrooms at the Carroll. There are 2 classrooms already open that are new classrooms at the South because that's where some of the students from the Welch went because that's very close to them. So we're going to keep those 2 online for our upper grades, 4th and 5th grade, and so we'll be able to fit more students there as well. So, it'll be a very individual basis, but we'll be able to meet with everybody and work with them on that. Yes. So class size will be limited. Our goal is to keep it around 22, 23, which is pretty much where many of them are at now. So we'd like to try to keep that. We do have contractual limits, around 24, 25 in K-2. So we will keep everything under that. We won't have classes of 30. We'll open up a new classroom before we would over-enroll a class. Yeah, so at the end of this school year, we're going to have a moving on ceremony for the current 4th grade students. Is that what that was about? So the current 4th grade students won't have an option to return to the center school. So we'll have a moving on ceremony for the 5th grade like we always do. We're going to have a special ceremony for the 4th grade students just to make them feel special so that they have an opportunity. We'll do a little something for everyone, but that 4th grade group in particular, we want to make sure that we do something extra special for them because they won't have the option to come back. We did that at the Welch, and it was really successful, and it helps give a little bit of closure. So those students will go somewhere else for 5th grade, and they'll go to the Higgins, or any school that they choose to. But they won't have the option to come back. So we're going to do a little something special at the end of the year for them. Thank you for bringing that up. Any questions for Mayor Betancourt? Yes.
So right now, we're looking for at least 10 years to get out of this work that we're doing, at a minimum, hopefully longer than that. If the timing goes well, which I think we have a good chance at, the high school would be 5 to 7 years, then the center would kick in right after that. But I want to get 10 years out of it to give us some wiggle room. So this will be online. PAT is broadcasting this. They'll be playing it. So I know there's a number of people that weren't able to make it. Some people reached out to me. So we have PAT. I know some counselors are watching this as well. So they will play this to make sure everybody gets a full grasp of what we've talked about. But please reach out individually. I think a number of families, once we've sat down with them, have really answered a lot of their questions and given them some peace of mind. So please do that if you haven't. I think that'll be very important for everybody. And we'll make time for that right away. I know these are difficult decisions and not something that's easy for all of you as parents. Okay? All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.